AEW Dynamite on January 8th, 2025 was actually a pretty decent episode of professional wrestling. And this is my first time talking about AEW on this channel, aside from that one video I made last year, right after they had aired that CM Punk footage that they definitely shouldn't have done. And I wanted to just emphasize at the start of this video that I am not a tribalistic fan, and I'm definitely not the type of fan that is trying to put over one company over the other. The whole purpose of me even bringing up wrestling on this channel as it is due to the simple fact that I have been a wrestling fan ever since I was a kid. And AEW has been a product that I have been following ever since its inception, even prior to its inception, because I was a pretty huge Bullet Club fan back in the day. I was a pretty big Young Bucks, Kenny Omega fan as well. And that naturally just carried over into when AEW was born. But obviously over the years, AEW has kind of hit a decline, and I'm sure some diehards will have to admit that, you know, it hasn't really been all that great in comparison to itself, not even comparing it to anything else. And I'm not also going to try to point fingers exactly as to where and why. I'm not here to do that. I'm actually just here to give you guys my overall thoughts on this week's episode of Dynamite and to highlight some of the moments that I liked a lot, and I figure I would let you guys know so that way y'all can also maybe pay attention to some of these story beats that I would think is worth tuning in for on next week's episode of Dynamite as well. So overall, I mean, it is All Elite Wrestling. So unlike WWE, as we know, is a spectacle. AEW likes to focus more on their in-ring match quality, and they basically deliver on that very well. I mean, we have matches like Will Ospreay versus Buddy Matthews, Bobby Lashley versus Mark Briscoe. We even had a Casino Gauntlet, which is kind of like a Royal Rumble scramble in a sense. For those that don't know, imagine a Royal Rumble, but every person that comes in is on a random timer. So it's not like every 2 minutes, it's on like a random time. And we as the audience don't actually know how many entrants we'll actually get. And you don't win by throwing over everyone over the top rope. You basically just have to pin whoever you can and you win. And in this case, the prize is to fight Jon Moxley for his AEW World Heavyweight Championship, which is probably still hiding away in a duffel bag. Which, just a little side tangent, I'm not a fan of having a world champion present every week, but you don't see the title ever. Like, I don't think we've ever seen that, and if we have, I don't remember, or I just never have seen anything like that before. But ever since he won it from Bryan Danielson, I just thought it was really weird that he put it away in a duffel bag, and like, you know, we never really see it. And I guess like for the storyline purpose and his direction and what he's trying to accomplish and do, it makes sense for that story where he's wanting the title to not be such a distraction because he's trying to reshape or reform the company and whatever it is. But I feel like that story has kind of lost its edge and it just fizzled out into whatever it is at this point. And unfortunately, I'm actually one of the fans that is in the camp of I just kind of can't wait to see who defeats Moxley to get the title off of him, because I feel like once that happens, I think his group of the Death Riders, not a fan of not seeing a world title. It's one thing when you have a champion that holds the belt that doesn't show up, and that's why we don't see it. But it's another thing when we see the champion but not the title. Like, it's very jarring, you know, in a very strange and unique way. So let's continue. So a lot of great action across the board from top to bottom. A lot of high quality wrestling from the men and the women. We also had a women's triple threat match between Toni Storm, Chris Statlander, and Willow Nightingale, whom the winner would go on to get the #1 spot in the women's Casino Gauntlet for next week's Dynamite. And obviously that is to decide who will go on to face Mariah May for her women's title. And we also, previous to that, got a little segment to, I guess, give Mariah May some sort of like a warm-up match, which is going to happen this weekend during Collision. I'm not sure if I'll be able to get any sort of thoughts video for Collision, but if I am able to, then you'll obviously see an upload from me. Now, just to keep this video and review a little bit more on the short side, I'm not going to really run through the entire card and give you like my deep thoughts and dissection of it. Unfortunately, I don't really have that much time. I'm still trying to also record a video talking about the Rock again, because there's some funny things to talk about with him. So we had Will Ospreay versus Buddy Matthews, Bobby Lashley versus Mark Briscoe, the Casino Gauntlet like I mentioned. We also had a Christian Cage and Hook video package to promote their match for next week's Maximum Carnage, which, funny enough, I'm like, how are they not getting sued? But that's a totally different story. We have a Jeff Jarrett in-ring interview where MJF interrupts, and they have an angle, I guess, that they are setting up, because it seems like MJF's gonna be giving Jeff Jarrett a hard time while he's on his last year, according to what MJF essentially spoiled for everyone. Is like, the reason why he's doing this last run is not because it's his last run, it's because his contract expires in a year. So there's of course heat between them, and I guess we'll see what happens out of this. Personally, and no offense to Jeff Jarrett, I don't really have any interest in seeing him feud with MJF. I mean, it might be good. I mean, MJF is a very entertaining heel. I do like MJF a lot. I feel like I enjoyed Jeff Jarrett for his shenanigans that he had with that group that he had a while ago. I don't know what happened to them, but I guess it just dissolved like out of nowhere, like a lot of things sometimes happen. And yeah, I don't know, like I don't buy into the idea that he is going to go after a world title and successfully win it. I mean, sure, he could go after a world title if he wants, but personally, I just don't see it happening. I think that the whole purpose of this storyline is just to give him something to do, so that way when the year is up, he has like a bunch of really good matches under his belt, and it then actually gives him and his character a newfound purpose to essentially, quote unquote, re-sign him and work that whole contract negotiation into the storyline. This wouldn't be the first time that we've seen this happen in AEW. MJF's like first big story was the whole bidding war of 2024, if you guys remember that. So I guess it makes sense to bring him on and have them work together and see what, you know, they can get out of it. Hopefully a decent enough match or two. Then we had and it's funny how I said I'm not going to run through the whole card, but I guess I kind of am. I'm just giving my brief thoughts on everything. And then once I go through everything, I'm just going to give you guys my big pointers as far as like the things that I'm really looking forward to seeing progress in upcoming storylines and whatnot. So Adam Copeland, aka Edge, or formerly known as Edge, is now known as Cope, which I will also say, I get why he's doing the name change to just Cope. I mean, it's obvious he's trying to recreate the same sort of essence, or at least similar essence to Edge, his WWE name. Having a 4-letter name, you know, is, I guess, doing it. But my thing is this: I wonder if they didn't even think to maybe try to just call him Edge, but spell it differently. You know, similar to how, like, one example I could think of is like Rhino. I remember when Rhino in WWE and ECW and whatever, like, he's always had the typical spelling of, you know, the word Rhino. It's like RHYNO. So then I remember when he went to TNA, he just changed a Y to an I. So I'm just like, oh, okay. So, I mean, what if Edge just, like, spelled it different, and they were able to call him Edge that way in AEW? And I feel like a lot more people would probably be more inclined to watch AEW if they're like, you know, Edge fans, or, you know, because obviously people don't know Adam Copeland, you know, like they would know Edge, if that makes sense. You know, like, if the idea behind any business is to attract more of an audience, to, you know, grow your business, make more money, because that's just how it goes. It's like the basic 101 of anything, right? That would make the most sense to me. But you know, I guess let me know in the comments, how would you spell Edge's name in AEW? Would you just add another E or like a random letter in the middle, like an I or something, and it's just silent? You know, it's like, I don't know. It's very weird. Edge is a very, I don't get, I guess like a specific word that I personally don't even know myself how I would even try to spell it differently. But anyway, he comes out and he cuts a promo, very impassioned promo, hyping up his match or impending match against Jon Moxley, which I guess should be a pretty good match. I mean, Edge, even though he's in an older, or you know, yeah, he's seasoned. You know, he's been around. He's been around the block for a long time. He still puts on some pretty good matches, and he's had a decent run in AEW. Obviously, he's coming back from an injury, but he used that as a lot of his basis towards what he was talking about. You know, mentioning how he broke his neck against Eddie Guerrero and still wrestled for 20 more minutes and then won the match. I didn't even know that. That's actually kind of fire. Also broke his leg against Malachi Black in a barbed wire steel cage match and won that too. Totally forgot about that. And of course, like shortly after, you know, he was really getting it on the mic. A fight broke out between the Death Riders and Rated FTR. Of course, FTR came in to save. You know, I almost called him Edge, but Cope, because I'm not used to Cope yet. But you know, it is what it is. It took me a little bit just to get used to freaking saying Adam Copeland, but now I gotta say Cope. Like that's crazy. Anyway, whatever. So they almost tried to do what they did to Bryan Danielson. I should also mention that. You know, the whole plastic bag over his head thing. So I thought that was that would have been crazy if they pulled it off. But then Powerhouse Hobbs comes out for the save, and yeah, I guess I should mention that Hobbs surprisingly won that Casino Gauntlet earlier in the night, which he was the 7th out of 11 entrants in this edition of the Casino Gauntlet. That featured Switchblade Jay White, Ricochet, Adam Cole, Daniel Garcia, Roderick Strong, the Murder Hawk, Lance Archer. Personal favorite, I feel they gotta use the Murder Hawk more, bro. Like I love Lance Archer, and I definitely love his theme song. I feel like if they used him more on TV, like he would definitely be one of those acts that would get over. Maybe I'm just, you know, my personal bias I'm putting out there, but whatever. Let's keep going. So we already mentioned the Harley Cameron Moran made backstage promo setup, or at least I mentioned that warm-up match, but they did have a little backstage promo to hype up their match that they just kind of put out on the spot. I'm a big fan of Harley Cameron just for the sole sake that she is very talented. She can basically do it all. And I like how they are using her in this way on television a lot more than they, I guess, have, or, you know, like some stars kind of just come and go on AEW. It's like they're trying to just see what sticks and what works, but good for her. And good for AEW on recognizing her talent. So that's really dope. And I'm hoping that their match is, you know, decent enough, but I don't anticipate her winning because, you know, that's just how it goes. Then, like I mentioned from earlier, they did have the women's triple threat where the winner gets to be in the #1 spot for that gauntlet next week, which Chris Stanlander won via pinfall over Toni Storm, which they then turned into a backstage interview with Toni Storm. They're carrying on this amnesia gimmick. She says she still might be ready, so she's really sticking to this character. I'm not really sure how long this is gonna last or how long they're gonna, you know, let this play out and when she's gonna have like her awakening moment. Like maybe they're gonna have to call up my man Broken Matt Hardy to put her in the freaking lake of reincarnation or something to bring her ass back to her old ways of being the damn, I already forgot her her gimmick that everybody liked, but you know, the one where she was you know, I almost said glorious. No, she's not Bobby Roode. So let me just move on. And then finally, the last thing that I'll definitely mention and then say that this is something that we definitely want to continue tuning into AEW for, to see what happens with Kenny Omega, because now our boy Kenny Omega back again once again in AEW proper. He had a crazy match from what I hear against Gabe Kidd over at Wrestle Kingdom, I believe it was, or if it was Wrestle one of the New Japan related shows. I actually haven't had a chance to watch it. I do want to go and at least watch that match back. But yeah, I haven't done a good job in trying to keep up with anything outside of the US as far as, like, you know, New Japan and whatnot goes. I used to watch New Japan a lot, but it's been a long time. And the funny thing is, I've been, I tune into some, other wrestling news sites like Wrestling Observer and Wrestle Talk, and I do hear a lot of opinions and thoughts being shared around. And even guys like them, like they were saying, like like the card itself, like it was just like very like uninspiring in a way. And I definitely agree with that, because like, no offense to Zack Sabre Jr., but I don't know, like seeing him at in the main event spot, like headlining a Tokyo Dome show, it does for me personally. Like, and I know he's really talented, he's really good, but I don't know, like I just never resonated with him like I do with Kenny, and like anyone else that I enjoy a lot, like Will Ospreay. So either way, Kenny comes back, new entrance theme. Didn't have a chance to see like what the theme is inspired of. I'm just gonna take a guess, and it's something video game related, because our boy Kenny definitely loves some video games. But I'm gonna be honest, not a fan of it. I really wish that if he was gonna use a different song, that he would maybe just come out to his original New Japan theme, which is like the Sephiroth theme, One Winged Angel, one of those, or even his original AEW theme, which is a pretty good song. Is high octane, high energy, gets the people going. And yeah, unfortunately, it's not there. It's kind of slower pace in comparison to his last AEW theme. So, but yeah, he had a new theme. He goes into his promo talking about his diverticulitis, which could have killed him had he not have checked into the hospital sooner, which is insane to even think about. I can't imagine a world without Kenny Omega. Like, this dude is, as he said, like the god of wrestling. You know what I'm saying? Like, you gotta give him the props, because I definitely agree with him. Like, he's had some amazing matches, and he's like I said earlier, one of the main reasons why I even bothered trying to get more into wrestling outside of the United States. And he also mentioned, like, 2 feet of his intestines had to be removed. And then of course, like, that gets into him talking about, like, man, like, do I quit? Do I do this? And I, for a second, I really did think like I was done. But then he's like, what is a life worth living if I'm not doing wrestling? So of course, he's here now. I mean, he's cutting this pro. I'm not even gonna lie, like, I'm listening to him talk, and I'm obviously listening to him, but I'm like, bro, you just had like a death match with this dude, this Gabe kid dude. Like, I seen pictures, this guy's bloody all over the place, right? And I'm like, come on, bro, like, you can't tell us that, like, you're not all right, but you're gonna have a match like that. Like, all right, dude, like, all right, I get it. You're trying to give us a show for the American audience, and that's fine. I appreciate that, Kenny. I'm glad you're back, but come on now, like, whatever. So of course, Don Callis interrupts. Kenny immediately jumps in, but then the Don Callis family comes out with Lance Archer, Brian Cage. They came out. Fake Will Ospreay came out too. Nah, I'm just kidding. Kyle Fletcher. I gotta give props to Kyle Fletcher. Kyle Fletcher's OD. He's actually someone that I would consider worth tuning in to, watching what he does, because he's definitely on the up and up. So definitely keep an eye on Kyle Fletcher. So they all come in. They kind of jump Kenny. And I was waiting for it. I'm like, bro, is this Will Ospreay's opportunity to come and do that? And boom, and Willie comes in for the save, ends with a face-off between Ospreay and Kenny. So that's definitely a match that we all know is gonna happen eventually, sooner than later, I think. And then they also, another great thing that AEW has been definitely doing a lot more of, and I love that. Is that they're promoting matches for next week and whatnot. And one of the matches that's going to be happening next week on Dynamite is Kenny versus Brian Cage. So I'm looking forward to that. Now, I know I said that this video is not going to be as long as it is, but it ends up being pretty much around the same time as my Raw video that I did earlier this week. So if you haven't checked that out, definitely go ahead and check that out. I gave my thoughts on Raw Netflix. But anyway, we're here to talk about AEW. So overall, like I said, I wanted to just at least highlight a couple things that I think is worth tuning in for next week. So obviously I already talked about all the Kenny stuff. Kenny's the greatest. He's the best. I love Kenny. We all love Kenny. So for him alone is more than enough reason to tune in to see like how his match goes and like what kind of story beats are introduced afterwards. I mean, I would like to see the match end with him just winning clean, but it's the Don Callis family. I'm sure they're gonna get involved, and who knows, we might see like a DQ finish, or we might see some like weird finish or something like that, and maybe the match might not even go through all the way. They try to like take advantage of him, who knows. But either way, let's definitely keep an eye on Kenny. The other thing I definitely want to note, and To some, this might not be that you know, crazy or whatever. Like, Uchi, like, why are you even bothering with this one? But like, just hear me out. So I think that is definitely worth tuning in for, to seeing what the Hurt Syndicate is up to. So Bobby Lashley, like I mentioned, had a match against Mark Briscoe, which he did win against Mark Briscoe in a very convincing way. Hit him with the Hurt Lock after a pretty like decent match, and I'm very glad. I guess I'll note that as well, that he didn't just automatically squash Mark Briscoe, because, you know, dude, Mark Briscoe is that guy. I mean, he's out here, a fan favorite. He puts on very great matches. He was a Ring of Honor World Champion. Of course, he was multi-time tag team champion with his brother Jay. Rest in peace. And, you know, he's a fan favorite, right? And so I was like kind of afraid, like, damn, like I knew Bobby Lashley was gonna win, but I was like, I just hope that they at least treat my guy Mark Briscoe with some respect, you know what I'm saying? Like, and they did. They had a pretty good match back and forth. Mark got some good offense in, and but I bring this up not because I wanted to go over the match with them two specifically. It was actually what happened prior. So what happened prior to Lashley's match was they had like a pretty short segment on the ramp with Private Party. And I'll also note that I'm very happy that they got their old theme song back, the shots, what we want. Like, that song definitely fits them better, fits their characters better, and I'm very glad they went back to that, because it also connects with the audience and the crowd a lot better than whatever that other song that they had. I remember they got it like shortly after they like won the titles from the Young Bucks, and I'm hoping that they, you know, still have good matches with whomever they have leading into this impending Hurt Syndicate tag team match, which I'm actually surprised about, and not because, you know, it's like, oh, like, you know, whatever, but I'm more surprised that Hurt Syndicate they're starting with trying to grab the tag team gold, where they're doing Lashley and Shelton. You figured they would maybe do that once they officially bring on Ricochet or a fourth member, who I guess I mean, I'll mention it really quick right here. I do think that there's a chance that Keith Lee could be the fourth member. That would actually be kind of fire, but I'll do another separate video whenever I have a chance, if you guys are interested in hearing like why I think Keith Lee should be the fourth member. But that's neither here nor there. I'm actually surprised, because both Lashley and Shelton, to me, are guys that should definitely go for singles gold each. You know what I'm saying? Like, one goes for one title, one goes for the other. But I understand that the world title picture is kind of occupied right now. But that's still no excuse, because definitely for Lashley, there's no reason why we can't just shoot this dude straight up to that spot. But, you know, we gotta take time and, you know, let things cook, and, you know, give others the obvious opportunity where, you know, they already have stories being set up and whatnot, and I guess they're still trying to let the Hurt Syndicate slow cook anyway. So maybe this is a not so bad idea after all for them to just go for the tag titles. But I'm not gonna lie, I feel like if the Hurt Syndicate goes against Private Party, and listen, I love Private Party, but they're gonna, bro, it's in the theme song. We hurt people. We hurt people. Like, and that's a banger. I'm not gonna lie. Like, that song is actually really fun to sing along with, and I notice the crowd. They're feeling it too. So that's actually a really good thing. I'm very happy for them. That they found their spot and their place in AEW so quickly, and I'm hoping that it just continues in this upward motion. So like I said, them in particular, they are definitely worth tuning in for, in addition to Kenny Omega. And you know, and then I guess, you know, to top it off, anything that Will Ospreay is a part of. Like, Willie is just like the homie of homies. He honestly is AEW's hero. He is the super baby face. He is their main character, or at least should be. I know there's some people that like say like Hangman Adam Page is, and I'm like, you know, maybe he was at some point, but I don't think so anymore. Especially since Will came on to AEW, that tide has shifted into his direction, guys. Like, Will Ospreay is such a star, and like even when he loses, it doesn't affect him negatively. And of course, like, you need to have a really good balance, and I feel like with him just being all about the business and all about like pushing everyone else, because bro, it's like iron sharpens iron. If you're trying to build up stars, you got to take L's, you know, like everything cannot be like, oh, this is not gonna work for me, brother, type shit, you know. Like, you really gotta put over your talent to give people reason, like, you know, and to give people a reason to even pay attention to other guys that aren't just Will and Kenny, you know what I'm saying? Like, you really need to do that. And I'm glad that how it played out with Kyle Fletcher. I mean, bro, he gave Kyle a really big win over him. Like, dude, like that's OD. So definitely Will Ospreay is somebody that is always gonna be one of my reasons to keep tuning in to seeing what he does. I just love seeing him come out, and he just brings a whole like it's not even just a bucket, it's like a whole bag, like a whole like universe worth of energy, and the crowd loves him, and they just feed off of him, and everyone sings along with Ospreay, like, you know, like it's fun, it's great. And not gonna lie, like I personally have not been to any live AEW shows, and I would love to just experience what it's like to be a part of Will's entrance. Now, I guess the one last thing I will end this long review. I'm very sorry that I went over time that I expect. Yeah, can you believe I literally went into this video thinking I was about to be like 10, 12 minutes, I'll be out here. Nah, I'm over here half an hour in, pretty much, right? So anyway, the last thing I did want to bring up is that AEW, and I don't, you know, like, I don't even think it's a them problem. I think it's like a weird audience issue, right? Tell me if it cannot just be me, okay? But when you guys are watching on TV, now when I watch off YouTube TV, right? And I know it's on Max now, but I don't think it's gonna make a difference where you watch it. But like, as long as you're watching it at all, you gotta tell me if it's just me or not. But does it not sound like the audience is just so low when it comes to just in general? Like, I feel like when you watch any other show, like even like WWE, it's like there's noise going on all the time. And I don't know if it's because of like, you know, some filters, or if they, you know, they're just piping in noise just to make it sound like, you know, things are really going. But to be fair, I've been to a few WWE shows in the last couple of years, and it's never felt like dead, or like everyone's tired, or it's just like, you know, nothing's happening. And usually that would only happen for matches that people just genuinely did not care about. But like, the second you have someone else like Jey Uso or anyone else that has some sort of star power to them, everyone is alive and kicking. But then you have AEW, and it's like they're putting on a great show, they're having great matches, they have great stars that they're presenting every week. And, you know, they do have some stories that are kind of hit and miss, or just a lot of misses. But, you know, like I said, that there's a few things that's definitely worth tuning in for, to see the progression, how it plays out anyway. And there's just moments where it's like, even with all that greatness, it's just, they're just quiet. And I don't know, is it like one of those things that the audience is just kind of locked in to a point where they're just, it's almost like a Japanese crowd where it's like, you know, they're very quiet. Even in the Tokyo Dome, like, you don't really hear nobody, because that's just how it is. Like, that's just the culture. I've been to Japan 3 times, and I can tell you, being in spaces where there's a lot of people around, they don't say nothing. Like, they really just stay quiet for the majority of it until like certain moments, and then people start getting lively, or when they try to follow along with the stars, when they signal, like, you know, like, okay, let's get hype for this, let's get hype for that, or whatever, like that. Like, I mean, it's like a weird comparison, but like, it's something that I just thought of that I figured I'd mention here to see what you guys think, and let me know what you guys think about the whole audience audio or sound, or I don't know, just energy vibe issue. Like, it's just so weird. Like, I don't know, is it because of how they sound the arenas, and like, I don't know, it's just something that I feel like that needs to be improved on. But I don't know if that's something with the production side, or if that's just an audience, like an AEW, like an average AEW audience thing. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. But that is basically everything that I have for you guys as far as this week's edition of AEW Dynamite on January 8th, 2025. If you enjoy these wrestling discussion videos, let me know. I know that I would like to do more as far as like, you know, higher end production, at least show off like more like imagery and stuff like that. But the whole point of me doing these, you know, like very simple, just my voice kind of discussions on these wrestling things, because like I have been such a fan for such a long time, and I've been on and off with doing wrestling content just because like I've loved wrestling so much that it's like one of the last few things that I just don't really like do anything with. Like I just enjoy it for the pure like want and need to enjoy it, and you know, and not you know, do anything for it. But now I'm at the point where it's like, you know what, like I did some videos last year, they did pretty decent for themselves. Let me just do more now and continue this time, so that way, you know, there's regular content on this channel. So yeah, I mean, if you guys are just here for the wrestling videos, cool. If you guys are also here from my other like reactions to Dragon Ball, to Sonic, to like, you know, whatever I've done on this channel, then yeah, thank you for checking me out and hearing my thoughts. And I think next up on the list here is, I'm probably obviously going to put this one first, and then after this, definitely look out for my NXT review. And it's not really a review, it's basically just me going to be talking about The Rock again, and a follow-up. It's basically a direct follow-up to my Raw Netflix video, so look out for that after you are done watching this one. So it should be up pretty soon. So thank you again. Let me know your thoughts on this week's AEW Dynamite. What are you guys looking forward to? If you have any predictions for upcoming shows or angles or anything like that, feel free to drop them in the comments. We could definitely chat about it, or I can obviously bring it up on the next one. And aside from the Rock video that I just mentioned, I will try my best to watch SmackDown as it happens, or at least relatively around the time that it happens, so that way I can do something similar and just to give you my thoughts on the show and some of the key points, because this is the first SmackDown that is post Raw Netflix. So we'll see if there's any big changes to the overall roster on the SmackDown side of things and go from there. So again, guys, can't thank you enough. Thank you again if you've made it this far. I do appreciate it. And I'll try my best for next time to keep these a little bit shorter, but we'll see. Anyways, take care. Have a great night or a great day wherever you are in the world, and I'll see you guys in the next one.